Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Neha, and I welcome you to a walkthrough of the Tempraz Expert System. Last week, we saw how the acute expert system worked and how it was very useful and applicable for your practice in acute diseases. Today, we will be looking at a very different expert system, which is the Tempraz Expert System. The purpose of including so many expert systems in Zomeo is so that we all as homeopaths get exposure to different schools of thought, not just different schools of thought, but it widens our horizons when it comes to homeopathic case taking and homeopathic prescription. Okay, so let's start with Tempraz, and we will be seeing how we can use the Tempraz expert system in our practice. So to access the Tempraz expert system, from the top menu bar, you have to click on the word Tempraz, okay, and a menu will open wherein you can select whichever option you'd like to go through. Let's start with the first, which is Tempraz Home. So let me give you some background about the Tempraz expert system. The Tempraz expert system was presented by Dr. Parinaz Humranwala. Dr. Parinaz Humranwala is a very renowned homeopath practicing in Mumbai, India. And she came up with this concept of tempras or temperaments. So what do we mean by temperament, and how does the Tempraz expert system help in our practice? When we are looking for the right remedy for our patients, okay, we basically consider what is called as the constitution of the patient, the life situation of the patient, and then we come up with a remedy called as the constitutional remedy. Now, what Dr. Parinaz Humranwala says is that there is something that comes even before the constitution, or something that is there as part of the constitution, something that overlaps with the constitution, and that is known as the temperament. Temperament is the inherited set of traits that we come with in this world. And based on these inherited traits, which are genetic in nature, which are present in us right from the time we are there in our mother's womb. So this is the core of a person, something that remains steady throughout life. And this is what determines our physical as well as our emotional and mental reactions as we live our lives. So what she has said is that we generally think of looking for the physical symptoms and then looking at the personality and the life situation of the person. But the personality is something that is made up of both the genetic as well as the environmental aspects. So we have a nature and nurture in our personality. But in the temperament, it is pure inheritance. And because of that, you get an undiluted picture of the person. And so she says, look for the temperament. And in the temperament, you will find the right remedy for the patient. This is the basis of the Tempraz expert system. Now, if you look at Tempraz Home, you will see that she has defined 5 temperaments. So she has divided people as having 5 temperaments. She also says that very few people have a single temperament in them. There are a lot of people who have mixed temperaments. What she describes as the core temperaments are sanguine, melancholic, choleric, phlegmatic, and nervous. And here in Tempraz Home, she has given the highlights of each temperament. So what she has said is, we will see through this walkthrough where she has described in detail every temperament. This is called as the temperament spotlight, where she has just highlighted the main features of each temperament. These will help you to understand under which temperament a particular patient fits. Okay, so she describes a sanguine temperament as someone who is very friendly, vivacious, vibrant, creative, very garrulous and loquacious. someone who is an extrovert, but also someone who is very frivolous, who is very changeable, who's also very reckless. So every temperament has its positive and its negative assets. Okay, so this is the sanguine temperament. In the same way, she describes the melancholic temperament. These are the people who are reflectors. They are introverts. They are people who are very, very straightforward, who are very, very quiet, and who go about doing their work very, very systematically, very, very quietly. They are brooders. These are the people who are generally the perfectionists, the ones who are very, very conscientious about and very, very diligent about every aspect of their life. Then we come to the choleric temperament. The choleric temperament people are leaders. They are very powerful and they like to show their power. They like to dictate terms to people. They like to direct things, and that is why they tend to be very quarrelsome. They tend to be egoistic, but they are also very, very shrewd people. They are people who believe in action. They are goal oriented people. So that is the choleric temperament. Then we come to the phlegmatic temperament. People from the phlegmatic temperament tend to be very complacent. They are very contented to sit back and watch life as it passes by. So all people of a phlegmatic temperament may not be lazy as such, but they are people who tend to take life very, very easily. They are the ones who are mild. They are the ones who are docile. They are the ones who are very peaceful and very routinist in their work. And the final temperament is the nervous temperament. People from the nervous temperament tend to be very, very cautious. They tend to become anxious about little things. They have a lot of fears. There is a lot of anticipation in a person with nervous temperament. So you will see these people usually suffer from a lot of hysterical ailments. This is how Dr. Humranwala has designated the different temperaments and given a broader picture of how every temperament represents. Now we will see how we can apply Tempraz in our practice to get the right remedy. And for this, we will have to go into Tempraz evaluation. Now, this is the mainstay of the Tempraz expert system. So we will be looking at all the words that are there that describe a patient of a particular temperament. First, let me explain the screen to you. On the left-hand side, there is a list of words of 334 words that have been given by Dr. Parinaz Humranwala. Now, these contain, day-to-day language of a patient. So, something like a conversational language, conversational words are present here. Now, the advantage of this is that you can directly put that conversational word here, and it is very likely that that word is going to be there in this list. Now, this list of 334 words is also divided into different categories. Now, how? When I click on this, on the three dots present here, I can see filters. So basically what Dr. Humranwala says is, we can come to know the temperament of a person based on how they react or respond in different aspects of their life. So when it comes to the main features, the core features of their nature, when it comes to how they are as a family member, how they are as a friend, how they are at work, what are their assets, what are their liabilities. So plus points, minus points. And what is their motto in life? Okay, this is like the core motto on which they function. And this is what differentiates people of different temperaments. So right now you are seeing a list of 334 words. Suppose I click on motto. This drills down to just 5 statements. Okay, so these are the core beliefs of the patient. Let us do it my way, which means that everything needs to be done as per what the patient says. Let us do it the easy way. This means that the patient does not want to put in a lot of effort in his life. Let us do it the fun way. Let's do something that is creative, that is going to, be enjoyable for us. Let us do it the right way. These are people who want to move on the right track, who want to do everything the right way, whether it is easy or difficult. And let us do it the safe and cautious way. So these are the people who generally tend towards the right way, but their main concern is on safety. So with our understanding of temperaments, we understand let us do it my way is what generally an egoistic person says. So this is choleric temperament. Let us do it the easy way is someone who wants to do it in a very laid back manner. So this is phlegmatic temperament. Let us do it the fun way. Someone who wants to enjoy the process is sanguine. Let us do it the right way, the perfect way is melancholic. And let us do it the safe and cautious way is nervous temperament. So these are the 5 mottos of the 5 different temperaments that we have. Let us go back to the master list. All I have to do is select all. This is the master list. And now, if you see this green button here, if I click on it, it shows me the meaning of that word. And the meaning of that word is there in English, it's there in Hindi, and is there in Gujarati. These are the 3 languages in which that Tempraz word, they are called as Tempraz words, are explained. This is how you can understand the meaning, which makes it very easy for us as physicians to pinpoint the absolute right words, right symptoms, and right attributes for a patient. If I want to record some word, okay, so all I have to do is I need to type in the search bar. So suppose I want to record the word fastidious. All right, so I type in fastidious and I get 2 results for this, fastidious and pathological fastidiousness. Now, suppose my patient is fastidious. All right, if I want to know the meaning of fastidious, I will click on this green icon and here I get the actual understanding of fastidious. Someone who pays great attention to neatness, detail, and order. Now, the moment I select the word fastidious, look at this section here. This lists the parallel words of fastidious or the synonyms. See how intricate the software is. We all know that the rubrics for fastidious and the rubrics for analytical may or may not be the same. There will always be some rubric that is different. So this is how you refine your search in your patient. Even if you type the word fastidious, you still have the option of selecting some other word that you feel might be better suited for your patient. So a fastidious person seeks perfection in children, is very conscious about the slightest of details, is very schedule oriented, likes charts and graphs. So you can see how we have put together intelligently even the parallel words, and every parallel word will have the corresponding rubrics. Right now, the recommended rubrics that you see are for fastidious. Okay, so you will see carefulness, conscientious about trifles, discontented, critical or exacting, fussy, fastidious, and so on. So for every Tempraz word that you have its parallel words and its rubrics as well. Now, I want to record this Tempraz word. There are 2 things that I can do in the Tempraz Expert System. The first is that I can record the Tempraz word here, and second, I can simultaneously record the corresponding rubric in my repertorization sheet. If you remember, when we studied about the acute expert system the last time, I had specifically mentioned that it is a standalone expert system. So you would not have any rubrics that would connect and you can record in the repertorization sheet. But here you can. From here, if I want to select the word fastidious for my patient, I click on this arrow. The first thing that I'm asked is to select the intensity of the keyword. So whether the fastidiousness is present in less intensity, moderate intensity, or whether it is in a severe intensity. Let me select moderate. So 2, and I click on add. And now if you can see, the Tempraz word has got recorded here. So the word is fastidious. It belongs to the category main features, and the prime temperament of fastidious is melancholic. Another thing that I'd like you to keep a watch on is here, this section. This is called as the temperament quotient, and this is the temperament quotient present in abbreviated form. So S represents sanguine, P for phlegmatic, C for choleric, N for nervous, and M for melancholic. And the temperament that is represented the highest or the most in our case comes to the extreme right. So right now, since we have recorded one Tempraz word that is represented under the melancholic temperament, you see an M here. Let's select some more Tempraz keywords. All right. Before we do that, let me also simultaneously record rubrics in my repertorization sheet. So let me record the rubric fastidious. The moment I check this box, the rubric gets recorded in my repertorization sheet. So simultaneously, I am doing a Tempraz evaluation and I am also doing a repertorization of the case. Now let me select something else. Suppose the patient, along with being fastidious, is also a very impatient person. So I type the word impatient. Here I get the reference for the keyword impatient. I select on the arrow and let me select the intensity as 3. Okay, he's a 3-mark impatient person. I click on add. Now, if you can see, impatient belongs to the choleric temperament. And if you see now, the word C has come to the extreme right, which means that choleric is represented maximum in my case. In this way, the more keywords that I select, this particular quotient may or may not go on dynamically changing depending on which temperament is represented maximum. Again, here, if you see impatient, you can see its parallel words: dominating, haughty, hurried, impulsive, needs to finish what is started, short-tempered, etc. You can see the recommended important rubrics for impatient also here. So if now I want to select the word impatient, I want to select the rubric. I check on the box and it gets recorded. Let's select something else now. Let's go with the patient being, say, very sensorious critical. So I can put the word CENS, I get sensorial. I select the temperament, I select the intensity. I click on add. Again, sensorial falls under the choleric temperament. I see the parallel words here and I see the rubrics for sensorial also here. Let me click on the rubric sensorious critical from the mind chapter of the complete repertory. So a total of 3 rubrics have been recorded here. Okay, now let's select some more words. And this time let's, do it differently. Let's select it from a particular category. So suppose I want to go to how he is as a family member. So I select family member, how he is towards the family. If the patient says that, I'm someone who won't think twice before doing something for my family, even if it is at my disadvantage. So I'm ready to sacrifice for them. I select on family member and then I type the word SAC, sacrifice. So here I have the exact statement, sacrifices for family members. So again, I click on recording the Tempraz word and let me select the intensity as 2. That gets recorded. If you can see, that falls under the melancholic temperament. So for every word that I will record, I will get its parallel words and I will get its rubrics as well. So now let me go through the rubrics that are there for sacrifices for family members and let me select the rubric, say conscientious about trifles. Okay, this is what comes very, very near to my patient. Okay, so conscientious about trifles. Then let me select something else. Let me go for another category. Let me go how he is at work. So if he is someone who says, I'm someone who likes to get my work done and I'm very passionate about it. I'm a go-getter. I do everything passionately. I do everything on time and I want to do it first. This person is a go-getter. So I select or I type go. Okay. So I get 2 options here, goal-oriented and go-getter. So let me select go-getter and I select the intensity as 2 and I add it. So now go-getter, which is there under the category of at work, falls under the choleric temperament. So let me see now, here are the important rubrics for choleric temperament. And let me select the rubric ambition, ambitious. In the same way, let me record some more Tempraz words. Say, suppose this patient is very dictatorial and dominating. I will write DIC, dictatorial. I will select the intensity, add it. In the same way, let me select the rubric as well, dictatorial here. Okay, if he's someone like like he said, I'm very particular about things, about the little things, then he is a very conscientious person. So I will select the word conscientious. I will select the intensity. So let me select 2, add it. Okay. So in this way, I can add different rubrics here. I can add Tempraz words. I can add rubrics. And what I can see now in the end, so this is the list of Tempraz words that I have recorded. What I can see here now is that I've recorded 7 Tempraz words for my patient. And I can immediately see that he's a mix of melancholic and choleric. Okay. It is very rare, very seldom that you will find someone who belongs to just one temperament. You will usually get a mixed temperament personality. Sometimes they may have even more than 2 temperaments. But what we need to see here now, to see which temperament dominates and by how much, we select this tab, which is called as the temperament quotient. When I select the temperament quotient, this is what I see. The weightage that is given to every temperament based on the Tempraz words that I have recorded. So it is obvious that while this person belongs to a mixed temperament, the choleric temperament is more dominating in his constitution. So he is someone of a more of a choleric nature. This is what now I can see, that at the end of it, what I finally get is what is his main temperament. Now, how does this help me? Firstly, it helps me to understand what the patient feels, how the patient reacts. Many times, a patient does not reveal many things to you, but if you are able to understand the temperament, you are able to sort of understand where, in what direction his reactions may go. So it helps you to get a deeper understanding of the patient. It obviously helps you to understand which remedies feature the most, or which remedies are the closest now to the patient. And how do we understand that? We understand that since we have recorded rubrics, we will go to the repertorization sheet and let us have a look at what comes up in our repertorization sheet. Okay, so I will select this icon here. And now if you can see, I have got 460 remedies for all the Tempraz words and the rubrics that I have recorded. How do I see this list? I am by default seeing this list based on the totality. So the remedy that covers the maximum gradations is seen first, and then we see the rest of the remedies in descending order. If I want to see based on symptoms covered, so I'd like to see those remedies that cover the maximum symptoms, I select on symptoms covered, and the list rearranges itself. And now I see that there are 10 remedies, in fact, which cover all the rubrics that I have recorded. Now, how do I differentiate? I can differentiate here also based on temperaments. And to do that, I have a special filter, which is called as the expert filter here. I click on the expert filter and I select Tempraz. And now what I can do is I can select the temperament. Now we know that this person predominantly belongs to the choleric temperament, but essentially he is of a mixed temperament. So I will select choleric and melancholic both, because my patient shows me both the traits of these temperaments, and I select apply filter. And now finally what I get is I get 3 remedies that are covering the entire symptomatology that I have recorded. I'm getting sulfur, I'm getting arsenic, and I'm getting aurum metallicum. So now it becomes easy for me to differentiate between these 3 remedies. How do I now differentiate between these 3 remedies? How do I understand on the basis of temperament which remedy I should prescribe for this patient? For that, I have what is called as the Tempraz Materia Medica. So see, whenever we are prescribing for a patient, we repertorize the case, we apply our filters, but we finally have to refer to the materia medica to confirm the remedy so that we prescribe the accurate remedy to the patient. And we are going to follow the similar pattern here as well. For that, I select Tempraz and I select Tempraz materia medica. Now, what you see here is a list of 110 remedies that Dr. Parinaz Humranwala has included in her temperament profile. And what she has done is she has taken references from source books and she has categorized them into different temperaments. So, as an example, I'm showing you abrotanum, which is the first remedy. It has both phlegmatic and choleric representations. And here are the symptoms of the phlegmatic temperament. Here are the symptoms of the choleric temperament. In the same way, I can study the different remedies that have come up in my repertorization sheet. So if I want to say learn about aurum, I type in aurum and now I see that aurum is more of melancholic and less of choleric, and I read about the different representations that aurum has in the melancholic and choleric department from different source books. If you see, these are core source books from which Dr. Parinaz Humranwala has taken the symptoms, and this has involved a lot of research from her part. But now we know that aurum is more on the melancholic side, less on the choleric side. Let's have a look at the other remedy, that's arsenic. Now, if you look at arsenic, arsenic is more on the nervous side, whereas choleric and melancholic are there in equal measure. Okay. Again, here as well, you can go through the different symptoms. And then the last remedy that we saw was sulfur. Now, sulfur, if you see, is very, very interesting because sulfur has the traits of all the temperaments. It's a king polycrest remedy. So it has representation from all the temperaments that are there. But again, here the choleric and melancholic temperament is on the milder side, whereas it is more sanguine and phlegmatic. So the remedy that comes closest in our repertorization sheet and according to temperaments is aurum metallica. And this is how you can arrive at the final remedy of the patient depending on the temperaments as well as the repertorization that we did. Okay. So this is how you can operate on the Tempraz evaluation. You can obviously go through the entire list of Tempraz keywords that are given. Against each keyword, you will also find the parallel word. And yes, one thing that I'd like to also show you. Here you have the recommended important rubrics, say for bashful. If I want to select a parallel word, say I want to select timid. Now I'm going to see the recommended rubrics for timid here. If I select lack of confidence, then I'm going to see the important rubrics for lack of confidence. So we have rubric representations immediately showing you even for the parallel words. So if there is some additional rubric that you would like to record from the parallel words of the Tempraz word that you have selected, or instead of the rubrics that are given for your Tempraz word, you would like to select the rubrics for a parallel word because that applies more for your patient. You can do that right from here in this screen. We also have a different version of the Tempraz evaluation, which we call as the Tempraz practical repertory. Now, if you click on that, you get a pop-up where essentially the same keywords are represented here. But the huge difference is that you can see the remedies for every rubric that you select. Okay, so this will help you show the remedies as well. Whereas in the Tempraz evaluation, that has more to do with evaluating the temperament of the patient and recording the closest rubric. But here, you can study the actual repertory, which means that you get the important rubrics and you get an additional list of more rubrics that you can study, which are not represented here in this section, in the evaluation section. So this is more repertory oriented, the Tempraz practical repertory, whereas this is more temperament oriented, where you can evaluate and assess the correct temperament of the patient. You can also delete any Tempraz word that you want. You just have to select it and click on the word delete and it gets deleted. You can delete multiple keywords at the same time, no problem. Okay, so this was the Tempraz evaluation. Let me show you the other aspects of Tempraz. We have a section called as Tempraz remedies. Basically, this is the Tempraz filter. So now what you can see is a list of 110 remedies. Suppose I select the filter of Sanguine. The list goes down to 29. So these are the remedies that are generally in the temperament of Sanguine. If I'd like to see only the phlegmatic remedies, I select phlegmatic, and here the list goes to 74. But suppose I want to see those remedies that belong to a mixed temperament. If I have a patient who belongs to both sanguine as well as phlegmatic, then I can select phlegmatic and sanguine. And now I see a list of 15 remedies that show me people who belong to the mixed temperament of sanguine and phlegmatic. In a similar way, if I want to see someone who belongs to both the choleric and nervous temperament, I select choleric and nervous. And now I can see those remedies that belong to both temperaments. If I want to add a third temperament, I can do that as well. So when I add a third temperament, say melancholic, the list drills down even further to show me 14 remedies. So in this way, you can see even how remedies have mixed temperaments. As we read in the Materia Medica also, that it's very rare that someone has just a single temperament. There is always going to be something else also. So this is like the Tempraz filter, the Tempraz remedies section. We had a look at the Tempraz practical repertory, which also represented the Tempraz word list. But this is more repertory oriented, more rubric oriented for study, as well as to know the different additional rubrics also that could be represented by any keyword. This is of a lot of help, especially if you are studying about a particular emotion, or you are studying about a particular group of mental symptoms or a group of emotional symptoms. This really helps because it helps us to understand the rubric representation or the repertorial representation that is there for each of the emotions or the mental symptoms that we are looking for. Then we have, after the Tempraz practical repertory, we have the Tempraz Materia Medica that we saw, which helps to understand the different temperaments under which these 110 remedies fall. And each of these symptoms, like I said, have been taken from source books like Herring or Clark, Kent, Borick. Then we have Tempraz sample cases. Now, this will help you to understand that this is a representation of two cases, which will help you to understand how you can derive at the Tempraz word for that patient. If you read this case, I used to work till about 18 years back. Then I left the job as my mother suffered from senile dementia. I left my job to take care of her as my sister was also working. So just here, now you can see the Tempraz keyword that has been attached. Sacrifices for family members, sense of responsibility, and over concerned about family. So this will help you to understand. A study of the cases will practically help you to understand how the keywords have been derived through a case. And if you see that the case is very, very long, but the keywords that are derived are very, very precise and in comparatively lesser quantity, because this is going to help you arrive at the remedy faster. When we are looking at a huge case, sometimes it becomes confusing even for the physician to pick out the characteristic symptoms for the patient. But here it helps us to understand. The Tempraz expert system helps us to catch on to the core of the patient through very, very routine and conversational language. And this is very important because when we understand through conversational language, you just have to put that Tempraz word in the Tempraz evaluation and you will get the rubrics. Many times it becomes also a little challenging to convert the symptoms into rubrics and then to look for those rubrics. So this makes it very, very simple, because you get the symptoms in a very conversational language. You can enter the symptoms in a conversational language in the Tempraz evaluation, and then the rubrics are just ready for you to just peruse through and select the correct one. So in this way, 2 cases have been explained. You can go through them because this will help you get a better idea about how Tempraz actually works. Then we have Tempraz Insights. Now, these explain the concepts behind Tempraz or the temperament system. Okay, so what is temperament? How do you arrive at the temperament? What is the difference between temperament and personality? In what source books has actually temperaments been mentioned? So she has also, Dr. Humranwala has also quoted Dr. Hahnemann, where Dr. Hahnemann has mentioned the word temperament, which gives us an idea of how important temperaments are in our daily practice. Then we look at the general traits of each temperament. So when we saw Tempraz Home, we saw the traits of every temperament in a very concise manner, but here you can read them in greater detail. So for example, if I'd like to read about the sanguine temperament, so what are the keywords for the sanguine temperament? What is the core outlook of the sanguine temperament, the moral fiber of each temperament, the main features, and how each temperament behaves at the workplace, in the house, socially. All this is also explained here. What are the positive points of every temperament, and what are the shortcomings of every temperament are also explained over here. Okay, so in a similar way, you can study about the different temperaments. You can study about choleric, melancholic, phlegmatic, nervous. This is going to help us to understand the core features of every individual temperament. After you understand the core features of the individual temperament, now you can study about combined temperament. So what she has done is, she understood in her practice that a single temperament in one person may not always be possible. You will always find a mixed temperament. So she has also, in short, explained about mixed temperaments. How would a sanguine choleric represent? How would a choleric melancholic represent? How would a melancholic choleric represent? Which means that the melancholic is predominant than the choleric. In this way, she has given different combinations of mixed temperaments, and she has also given an example for us to understand how we can deduce a person of mixed temperament. So this is about Tempraz Insights. And lastly is Tempraz Help. So here you will be able to understand about Dr. Parinaz Humranwala and the sources that she has used to show you the different materia medica symptoms, and of course to explain about temperaments. The bibliography is also mentioned over here. This gives you an overview of the Tempraz Help Manual gives an overview of the Tempraz Expert System to help you understand how you can arrive at the Tempraz words, do an evaluation, and how the Tempraz Expert System works. So what are the parallel words? How would you rate the intensity? What about the recommended rubric? So everything is mentioned over here. Okay, so this was about the Tempraz Expert System. Do also remember that we have a representation of the Tempraz Expert System in our repertorization sheet in the form of the expert Tempraz filter. So, and of course, you can apply the Tempraz filter whether you use the Tempraz evaluation or not. So even if you record rubrics through the classical case, if you have Tempraz, you can apply the Tempraz expert filter even there. And this will really help you to shorten the list of remedies that have been recorded and shown to you in your repertorization sheet, so that finally refining and arriving at the accurate remedy for the patient becomes easier and more accurate. All right, so this was the Tempraz expert system.
Thank you, Dr. Neha. I hope we all enjoyed this wonderful presentation by Dr. Neha. All right, we'll call it off for now. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Neha, once again for this wonderful presentation.